Digging Deeper with At the Coalface, the podcast that shares the incredible stories of the talented and passionate people in our industry. And it's now time for this week's episode of Digging Deeper with At the Coalface. This week's episode is brought to you by Fire Response. Fire Response is Australia's leading specialist in firefighting and emergency equipment. With unmatched expertise, a focus on quality and a commitment to customer service, Fire Response will deliver the solution you need to keep your people, assets and the environment safe. It's your host, Jessica Rouse.
Welcome to another episode of Digging Deeper with At the Coalface. Now, if you've picked up the November edition of At the Coalface, you would have seen a lovely big story on a woman by the name of Katie. Katie's worked in the health and safety space for, it's the October edition, not the November edition. Welcome to another episode of Digging Deeper with At the Coalface. If you've picked up the October edition in New South Wales or Queensland, you would have seen a great story on a woman named Katie. Now, Katie's worked in the health and safety space for 10 plus years, and now she's gone out on her own. She started Empower Business Solutions, starting conversations, mentoring people, and being able to be her own boss and say a lot of things that perhaps she wouldn't have been able to say when she was working in the industry, which there's so many things we need to be talking about, and I'm so happy to say that Katie is joining us on this episode. Katie, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm lovely to be here.
It's so good to have you on. This is the first time we've met in person, but we caught up on Zoom and the back and forth was just so easy, and I just loved how passionate you were about the industry and starting some conversations that we really need to.
Yeah. I come from a mining family, so I've grown up in the Hunter. I've grown up surrounded by mining. Everyone in school left school to join the mines, either mining or construction. It's always been that heavy industry.
Yeah.
That really pushed me to get into to find a spot where I fit into that. I can't drive very well. I'll be the first to admit that. So I was never going to be driving one of the big trucks. Not very good at fixing things, and so I turned to health and safety.
Yeah.
Something that I've always been very passionate about, but I was very lucky to be able to slot my health and safety background into mining. It's led me to some really great opportunities, but some big challenges as well. So my goal is to build workplaces where equality doesn't come at the cost of safety or credibility.
Yeah.
So for me, it's now bringing my lived-in experience into play. How can I enable businesses to provide better solutions, provide safer environments, but also everyone has the same opportunity?
Yeah. And I titled the story in the magazine, "One Size Doesn't Fit All." And that's exactly what you see in the industry, really.
Yeah. It's whether that's PPE, whether that's a role, whether it's anything from administrative all the way through to being on the ground.
Yeah.
One size doesn't fit all. And it's something that a few conversations that I've stirred up a little bit lately. And I think it also comes down to the uncomfortable truth about diversity.
Yeah.
Not all roles are suited for everybody. I worked for an underground drilling company. We were a subcontractor, and one of the mines that we were contracting at was really heavy on 50-50
quotas. Yeah.
And I, as a woman in mining, I'm all about equality. I want to see as many women in the industry as we possibly can. The role itself for in-seam gas drainage drilling is a difficult role.
Yeah.
I know I couldn't do it. I know a lot of men who couldn't do it. It is a physically demanding job, lifting drill rods for 12-hour shifts that can range up to 40 kilos in weight. And so to have a quota put on to say you need to hire more women, and you need to ensure that, you know, you have a better women representation. It didn't work.
No.
To find many women, number one, that could do that role, even men. There's a lot of men that couldn't do that role, but specifically they were targeting women. And so not only are we looking at the physical capability of a woman, but the vibrations on a drill rig as well. So if a woman falls pregnant, and the impact that that can have on that role with pregnancy, it just didn't fit.
No.
And for me, equality is a man and a woman, anyone, regardless of their gender, their race, any of the metrics, everyone has the same opportunity to apply for the role. They have the same education, and it's the best person for the role gets the role. I think when we choose the best person for the role, everybody benefits. The company benefits, the outcome of the position benefits. It really thrives. And I think we have a lot of really big companies at the moment that are still so focused on the number. And as a woman who's been in mining as well, it comes down to the real impact on the women that are put in these roles as well. So you walk into a boardroom, you might be with your senior leadership team, or you could be meeting with anybody, and you walk in, you're the only woman in the room. Automatically people look at you with, are you a quota hire? Should you be here? And so you walk into a room and instantly you have to work twice as hard as your male counterpart. And that chip on the shoulder that you've got to work harder, it really can create burnout, can create resentment, and it can push really good women out of roles. I think it can also do the opposite. It's not a nice feeling. I've had men say to me, you know, you're a young blonde woman, what would you know? And for me, I am so passionate about mining. I've really educated myself on the ins and the outs and blasting and sequencing and the geo side of things, the CHPP, even our drag lines and our shovels. Yeah. I am so passionate and I love to learn, and so I should be in that room, and I shouldn't have to prove why I'm there. We don't see men in the same rooms having that burden and still having to prove themselves. It was before I went underground for the first time, and my boss at the time said to me, "You're not going to wear makeup underground, are you?" And I said, "What would it matter if I did?"
Exactly.
And he said, "You know, people won't take you seriously." And I said, "Why? Why are we still in a position where how I turn up to work matters?" And I would even say this time last year, I wasn't wearing makeup to work because people didn't take me seriously if I did. And, you know, since I've gone out on my own, I feel empowered again. And that's, you know, Empower Business Solutions.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to create spaces for people where, you know, what they look like doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What their gender is doesn't matter. What their race is doesn't matter. None of it matters. What matters is your ability to do the job that you've been hired to do.
Exactly right. And that's all. To be hired for a job, that's all that should be looked at, is your skills, what you can do, whether you're male, female, whether you wear makeup to work or whether you don't. It's just crazy to think that you were even experiencing that last year.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And toilets.
Oh, yes, let's go there, please.
My underground experience. So most underground toilets, they're awful. They're a little cubicle in a cut through, but they still is male and female toilets. And there was one day I was at a really large pit, and it was 45 minutes once you got on the drifty down. I was busting to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so 45 minutes, I got to where I needed to go, and then it was about a 20-minute walk up to where the female bathrooms were, or where the bathrooms were. And so I walk up and I realise that the bathrooms are locked and I don't have a key. Now, I needed to go, so I had no dramas using the men's toilets. That's fine. But what the questions I asked after I got back out, when I got back to the surface, was, why are they locked in the first place? And the reason really stumped me. It was, we don't trust the men to not use them and not trash them. And I just thought, so at the detriment of a woman going underground, needing to go to the bathroom, instead of, punishing the men for trashing the toilets, let's have a woman lose the ability to use the bathroom.
Also, we're all meant to be adults.
We're adults.
Can't we just look after an amenity?
Yeah. Yeah. It
That's baffling.
me. And even this year, I was working at a job site, and there was no female bathrooms. So this was a major, major project, and no female bathrooms, and everyone laughed about it. Now, I've been in the heavy industry for a long time. I can deal with going to the bathroom wherever. It's not a big deal to me, but even my male counterparts on site, they felt uncomfortable because I sat down and I had a conversation with one gentleman, and he said, I don't want to be in the bathroom when you're there. And I said, why? And he says, because I don't want you to take anything, if you see me at the urinal, I don't want you to take that the wrong way. I don't want, and we are in a day and age where there are a lot of sexual harassment allegations, and they, there's certainly, I've seen my fair share of it as well, but he didn't want to put himself in a position where something could be taken the wrong way, and he's at the face of one of those allegations. And so it's not just the women that are uncomfortable. Yeah. It's the men as well. And I think in 2025, what are we doing?
Exactly.
We want women to want to come to these industries. We're striving for equality, but we're not setting women up to succeed either.
We're not making it a welcoming environment by not having a female toilet.
I got in my car that day and I sat there and I just thought, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I might feel okay being in that situation. I mean, I wasn't 100% okay, but I made it work. But there are women who might not be okay to put their hand up and say, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
And that's really what started the drive for me to want to speak out. I don't shy away from tough conversations, and I'm not afraid to be the bad guy. And so I really unconsciously became a disruptor. I didn't set out to be a disruptor. It's just sort of happened. But I just got tired of being a part of systems that weren't working.
Yeah.
And seeing people sit there and think, it's worked for 20 years, it's fine. It doesn't work anymore. And why, when we have the means to change something, why aren't we changing it? I think nothing is going to change if people don't speak up.
Yeah.
And so that's That's why I'm here. I speak up because I see the human cost, injuries, burnout, good people walking away from jobs because they don't want to have to put up with this.
Yeah.
The systems are failing them, and when we have the means to change them, why aren't we?
Do you think, you've left the mining industry, you're out on your own. We don't see women or perhaps men either really speaking up about these things in the industry. Do you think we're still living in that space where we're too scared to speak up in case it ends up, backfiring on us and we potentially lose a job, or we get, some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like something bad will be done as a punishment because we've spoken up.
Yep. I started posting on LinkedIn a few months ago, and some quite controversial topics. And the amount of people that I had worked with, whether it was a pit that I'd worked at, a subcontractor that I'd worked at, or people that had worked with me that had sent me messages and they said thank you.
Yeah.
Because they knew that if they had the same conversations, they'd be reprimanded.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
No. I mean, I've done so many stories with some amazing women in the industry. There was one a couple of months ago, and we talked about her time underground and having a period and all of those sorts of things that she had to deal with. And at the end of it, that part of the story was taken out by management. Like, we're not even talking about it at that level, just me and someone for a story. It's
It's hard.
Yeah.
The fact that people are punished for speaking out.
Yeah.
Speaking out is where we see change. If we do something that we've always done, we're not going to grow. We grow in uncomfortable. And I think businesses need to realise that the uncomfortable is okay.
Yeah.
This is where we're going to see change. If people feel that they can put their hand up and say something's not right, something's wrong, and they're supported in that, more people put their hands up and businesses flourish.
Things will change.
That's where ideas come from.
Yeah.
That's where really big change comes from, and we're pushing people away from the uncomfortable. We want people to be in a neat little bubble that we can control, and that's not where we're going to grow.
No, exactly. So for your Empower Business Solutions, you're essentially coaching business leaders into how to have tough conversations and how to speak out. Can you give us some examples of what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I had a business owner reach out to me. He had an apprentice that was having a few performance issues, and he said, I don't know how to have these conversations with her. And I said, talk me through what's going on. What are the issues? Where are we falling down? And he said, she's great. She's a team player. She gets to work on time. She's there. She wants to be there, and you can see that she wants to be there, but there are areas that she's falling short. And I said, so what's the problem? And he said, I don't know how to have these conversations with her. I don't want them to be taken the wrong way. And I said, have you had these conversations with a male apprentice before? And he said, yeah, all the time. Like, we've got a lot of blokes in the workshop. This was his first female he'd ever employed. And I said, so what's the difference? What's the difference between this conversation with this female versus a male apprentice going through the same thing? And he said, nothing. And I said, it's just the gender. We just need to take away the gender, the race, any of that, take it out.
Yeah.
Treat them as a person.
Exactly.
They're a human being. We had a great outcome. I actually caught up with him again last week, and he's given her a little bit more training, and she's thriving.
Oh, there you go.
So it was nice to see the full circle and get that bit of an update. But really what I'm trying to do is create not only the mentoring, but I'm helping businesses create their safety management systems from the beginning that are inclusive, that work. It's not a 2-decade-old system that we're still trying to, the puzzle pieces are broken and we're still trying to stick them together. It's let's make a system that works for everybody, that includes everybody. So whether that be a business that's been operating for 50 years and we start from scratch again with their management systems, or a brand new business that's opening, which I'm working on with one at the moment. But it's just really about creating spaces, whether that's through the safety management systems, our risk management framework, or mentoring leaders. It's really just about creating workplaces where everybody feels included.
Yeah. And I think the great thing about you stepping out and doing this is you've had that time in the industry. You've seen so much, like you get it.
Yeah. I feel that it's really empowered me to be able to say, I've lived through these challenges and this is what could have been done better.
Yeah.
And so by me going through, I would say the hard yards, I've got to really go through some hard yards. I can create environments where my son and my daughter, they might not have to deal with some of the things that I've dealt with. And that's what drives me. It might not be, I've gone through these hard periods at work, but by me going through that, I've seen what could be better, and whether that's the next generation coming through, I can create environments that are going to embody them to be.
Yeah. I feel like I was talking to my mum about this morning. There's been a lot of mental health stuff I've been doing lately. And she said, it seems like we're talking about these things more. And I said, yeah, I think we are. But I said, I think it'll still take a generation for the mental health stuff we're doing to actually be like a natural conversation, natural things that happen. Same with this stuff. I think it's going to take a generation.
Yeah. Mental health is also something that I'm such a big advocate for. Yeah. And I think men's mental health in mining is I had 4, would have been about the middle of the year, and I'd already had 4 workmates that I had worked with had committed suicide. Yeah. And that was this year. And it really struck me as I sat down with my partner who had his supervisor, he works underground, and he'd had his deputy commit suicide. And so we're both dealing with grief and we're both dealing with losses. And I said to him, what aren't we doing? Where are we letting these men down? What more could be done? Because I know for women, it's really easy for us to have conversations. Yeah. And I sat and I thought about this for weeks. I really, what aren't we doing? We're really good at starting the conversation. Yeah. In pre-starts, in the crib rooms, with posters on the walls, are you okay day? But what I think we're lacking is the next part.
The follow-through.
So when we say, are you okay? And someone says no, what tools have we given? We're asking our employees to have these conversations, but are we giving them the best shot? Because have we given them the tools to know what happens if they say no? Yeah. And I had a really good conversation with someone at my gym, actually. We spoke about, he works in mining as well, and he said someone said to him no, they weren't okay, and he felt the burden. Yeah. And he wasn't expecting a really big hour-long conversation about all of their struggles, and it actually started his own mental health decline because he started worrying quite significantly. He didn't know how to express, the weight that he just took on. And unfortunately, that person actually did commit suicide. And so it really, it struck him quite profoundly. And I think what we need to be looking at is we've started it really well.
Yeah.
We are talking about it more. What's our next chapter, though?
Yeah.
We recognise mental health now. People can say, I need a mental health day. I think that's becoming more normalised, but we're not done yet. We're certainly so far away from the finish line. And for me, it's really about our men.
Yeah.
Our men are struggling. That's, especially in mining. I think you look at divorce rates in mining, they are astonishing.
Yeah, well...
I'm part of the statistics.
Oh, no.
But, those 12-hour shifts.
It's a huge undertaking. And I spoke to the trademark shirts,
Yes.
so the TX guys, and I said, what is the main thing that people are ringing you and saying, this is what I'm struggling from, this is what's happening? And I said, it's relationship and marriage breakdown.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I've been the partner at home. Before I got into mining, I was the partner at home, and I had a partner who was in the mines, and it's lonely.
Yeah.
I didn't have any kids at that time, and I don't know how I would have coped with really young kids and a partner who wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so I think, they are set up to fail quite a lot. And there are some really great relationships that do thrive, but I think that you see relationships break down, that's going to affect someone's mental health as well. They realise that work is the main reason that their relationship failed, so they're at work and there's resentment for being at work. But, in mining, the money's really good, and so you sort of become those golden handcuffs come on, and so you feel like there's nothing you can do. I need to be here to support my family, but my family need me as well.
Yeah.
And so there's a pull. And I think what we need to focus on is what's next.
Yeah.
We recognise mental health, we start conversations, but that's where it stops.
Yeah.
And, it is a bit of an epidemic at the moment. I'm seeing it firsthand this year. The youngest, one of my very good friends, he was 21. And I stood at his funeral in the middle of the year, and I just thought, we can't keep doing this. This is just, it's not okay anymore.
No. It's just so, I don't know. It feels like, we've just had September, Are You OK Day, October's Mental Health Month. We've had World Suicide Day and all of those things. And they just feel like they become a token.
Yeah.
We're just doing this to tick a box.
And I posted something about this on LinkedIn, and I had a few messages, and they said, I've told my leader that I'm not okay. They posted on LinkedIn about suicide prevention and Are You OK Day, and they did all of that, but they said it was just a face.
Yeah.
They did it so that they ticked a box and they looked good for social media, but at the end of the day, they felt that they didn't really care.
Yeah.
And, that's not okay.
No.
It's not. If we want to encourage people to have these conversations, and we as leaders need to lead by example.
Yeah.
Leadership it does come with a lot of weight, and I think people underestimate how much comes in leadership, but change starts at the top. It starts with us. When people see that we're there for them, We're going to listen. We're not going to judge.
Yeah.
People open up. They become comfortable. I think from even just a safety example, I could put my hand up and say, I've had my own incidents. It's okay.
Yeah.
You come to me and say you've had an incident.
Shit
I will
happens.
relate to you. Shit happens. Everyone makes mistakes every day.
Yeah.
I make mistakes every day. And I think as a leader, you need to humanise yourself.
Yeah.
Because our employees are humans too.
Exactly.
And not everyone's going to be okay 100% of the time. And we have to support them through that.
Yeah. I hope it's changing, and as we've said, I think eventually it will be more okay than it is.
Yeah.
But it's just going to take the time, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to take years and years, and change and culture takes so long to change. I was a part of, at one of the mines that I worked at, we had a really poor culture. And that was everything. That was a safety culture.
Yeah.
That was culture with leadership. It was everything. And we held culture workshops, and we kicked out the supervisors, we kicked out the step-up supervisors, the managers, no one else. And the health and safety training team actually ran these workshops.
Yeah.
And as soon as we shut the doors, we'd kicked everyone out and we said, talk. What's going on?
Yeah.
We had, oh my goodness, we had so many pieces of paper of everyone's issues. And it ranged from feeling like, there were some silly ones in there, but
always is.
It was, they felt that they weren't heard.
Yeah.
And so they could say, one of them actually said, he goes, I got in trouble because I got pulled aside because I'd had too much sick leave. But they didn't ask why I'd had sick leave. He said, my partner is struggling with postnatal depression, and I was worried about leaving her at home with the kids. No one asked why.
Yeah.
It was just, you're having too much and it's not good enough. And he said they went in so heavy-handed that he didn't feel comfortable saying, this is what I've actually got going on at home. And I caught up with him after the session and I said, are you okay? And he said, no. He goes, the burden of being here, knowing my partner's struggling, but I have to be here so that she can stay at home on maternity leave and feed our newborn baby. He go, it's too much. And then he felt that it was a slap in the face.
Yeah.
And granted, there are people that do take advantage of sick leave and have...
Oh, of course.
That's always going to happen, but...
Don't assume that's everyone.
No. And he goes, before we had the baby... He goes, I think I had one sick day last year. So it's not a pattern that I am someone that regularly does this.
Exactly.
But, and this is what I'm trying to encourage leaders, it's just because it looks bad on paper right now, it's let's dive deeper.
Yeah.
Because there is going to be an underlying issue, whether that's family life or whether it could just be someone that wants to take the mickey out of it, and that's an issue in itself. But
yeah,
you're just going in at surface level.
Exactly.
And not only that, you've now created a space where someone doesn't feel that they can talk to you about what's going on, because he's certainly going to need to have more time off.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much we need to fix. I guess, Katie, to kind of wrap it up, what would be some advice or some words of wisdom for any leader at any level listening you would like them to hear?
I think if we want to start changing the conversation, we need to start changing the systems behind it. If we want to change what's happening on a day-to-day basis, we have to take a step back and look at the systems that aren't working for us and be willing to change them. I think, especially diversity, when diversity becomes a numbers game, women stop being seen for their worth and their capability. They're just seen as a statistic, and that's a step backwards. Yeah, true diversity, it's not about ticking boxes. It's about putting the right people in jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Katie, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Digging Deeper with At The Coalface. You can download more episodes of the podcast on all your favourite podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on YouTube, Amazon Music, all the usual places. Make sure you leave us a rating and a review. We'd love to hear what you thought. And if you do have a story idea or something you'd like us to talk about on the podcast, please send me an email, jess@thecoalface.net.au. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll be back next time for another episode of Digging Deeper with At The Coalface.